Shut up and sit down.
Go outside. See those kids? They're having the time of their lives riding their bikes. They know what's up.
I ride my bike. I ride my bike all around. Yes, I do.
Your addiction gets worse. You spend less time at work doing work and more time looking at bikes.
I ride by all my friends and I wave hello.
You are listening to the Dialed Podcast with Matt Legrand,
Sir Ian Gibson,
Lance Hepler, and Jake Von Turing. Contrary to popular belief, owning a bike doesn't make you a cyclist. You have to ride it as well.
Oh, my bike is very good.
Become obsessed with your bike. Fixate over specs, head angles, and weird things like tire
So I
drops.
better have my helmet on.
It's time to ride your brand new bike.
It's so much fun just pedaling up and down. Yeah.
One day you see a press release for a brand new bike. It's like yours, but 15% lighter, 35% stiffer, and it's red.
Hi, and welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm Jake Von Turing. I'm here with Lance freaking Hepler.
Lance freaking Hepler.
He's freaking Hepler.
I'm freaking Hepler. I'm starting to get people call out frickin' or friggin' at me at the races. And let me just say, that makes me very happy.
Lovely.
To his right, Sir Ian Gibson.
Hello, everybody. Everybody all right?
Hello, Governor.
Hello.
Where did that come from?
British guy doing a British accent.
British
I love
guy
it.
doing an American doing a British accent.
That's what it is.
Okay.
Love it.
Nailed it.
To his right, the one and only Mr. Matt
What's up,
Legrand.
ladies and gentlemen of the internet? You guys look fan-freaking-tastic. You do.
Yes.
Sweet.
You do.
You look fantastic.
I look like a beat-up old man who's tired all
Which
the time.
could be fantastic to the right person.
You find that lady, you point her at me. Okay. Lucky lady she is.
Hey, Matt. You want backpedal?
Backpedal, yes. I've been e-biking.
Yeah, you've been riding that e-bike cargo thing
I
around.
rode my cargo e-bike up here today. I did do a real bike ride with David Goodman on
Good. How's he doing?
Sunday. I think it was
Nice.
on Sunday. He's doing okay. He's doing all right. I think he's going out of town this weekend. I think he's going hiking or something like that. And yeah, we did a 20-mile coffee ride. He did like 50 miles, but then I went out and just met up with him and rode back. It was good. It was good. I can still bike, barely.
Sweet.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Gibbo.
Not much to report, really. I did a coffee ride yesterday from Gresham down Springwater Trail into town, had a coffee, came back, Marine Drive, 50 miles.
By yourself?
Wow.
Yes. Zone 2. It was good.
Zone 2. You got to by yourself to do Zone 2. You hang out
Yeah.
with Hepler, things get spicy.
No, it was good. Weather was great. Aside from that, Salvi shootout again Sunday, which was very spicy. Just about hung on. Just
About hung on, or you barely hung on?
I barely hung on.
Okay.
I did hang on,
Okay.
but it was challenging. It's
Nice.
getting more challenging.
Ian and I, we actually went out for a ride after we recorded the
We did.
podcast
After the last
last
podcast.
week.
Let's
Yeah.
segue into your backpedal. You want to tell us about that
Oh.
ride?
Is it?
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell the story, or you
You go
tell the
ahead.
story? You know, it was pretty interesting because me and Ian, we decided to do the flogging route, which is
Yeah.
like 28 miles, and the talk beforehand were we were just going to ride tempo, so it wasn't going to be Zone 2. It was going to be a little step up from that, but just tempo. And let me just say, it was fantastic. It was me and Ian trading pulls for an hour and a half without speaking a word to each other. There was no...
That's kind of nice.
Because we knew the route, we knew the plan for
Right.
the ride, and so we were just like...
Traffic wasn't too bad.
Traffic wasn't bad,
good.
so we were just like drilling it not super drilling it, but just like steady, no stops, no... Just, it was like a perfect tempo ride. I was just having a blast.
Yeah.
Until I wasn't.
You have Band-Aids all
I
over
do,
you.
I do have Band-Aids all over me. We were turning from Ward Road onto, I don't know, what's that street, 88th or something. And we were trying to cut between traffic because we were taking a left turn on Ward Road, which is pretty busy. And we were trying to cut between traffic, and we kind of went a little farther south down the road before there was a gap to go through the traffic. And I went pretty hard, and as soon as I got through the traffic, I realized there was a curb right in front of me. And
So you're effectively making a U-turn to come back to the road that you wanted to
Correct.
go on because of the traffic. Yep.
And I didn't realize I needed to U-turn. I thought that I was still within the entrance to the road we were turning on.
Oops.
So the
Total Cat 6 movie.
it was a total. And so I'm turning and I thought, okay, I'm gonna miss the curb. I just need to unhook my right foot so that I can like shift my weight a little bit. And I couldn't unhook my right foot because my cleats have been weird. They haven't been unclipping very easily lately. I've changed them.
The release point's a little bit further out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were also jacked up. So
were
they
they?
got taken off and thrown away. Anyway, so I missed the turn and I hit the curb broadside and just like slapped my body on the ground.
Oh.
Just whap. And then I was pissed. Poor Ian. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I banged my head and I'm like missing skin and I'm bleeding from everywhere and my hands were all bleeding because I ripped all the skin off my knuckles. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Let's just go."
He was angry. It went from tempo to zone 5 in a hurry.
It went, and so I jumped on the bike and make sure the bike was running okay, and it was. I had bent my hanger, and I didn't realize that for like a day. Anyway, but it took Ian like a mile and a half to catch me because I was riding, just kind of riding angry after that. So I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? This was stupid. Crashing on your road bike is different than crashing on mountain bike or gravel bike. Generally, bouncing off the pavement is never a good idea. And I was sore as hell. Like my neck hurt from like whiplash and my knee I couldn't bend properly because
Who knows?
Who knows?
I was worried. That was the second time somebody fell off right there in front of me in like 5 days.
But the other guy went to the hospital.
Yeah, Dickie broke his pelvis.
Oh.
Again. Well, yeah, broke his pelvis. So he's not in a good way. And I saw you on the floor and bleeding. And I'm like, oh no, not another
Here
one.
we go. Anyway, I ended up just taking one day off and I felt fine. So I'm one day off. So I was just missing skin and whatnot. So thankfully, I have to do some work on my bike because I screwed a couple things up, but I was able to figure that out. So anyway, that was Thursday.
Handlebars.
The handlebars were bent, but I have to rebend and replace my hanger on my bike, and then I scratched some things up that I didn't want to scratch up, on my bike, but not too big a deal.
So it goes.
So it goes. So we had
A racing bicycle should have a few
it
scratches.
should have a few scratches on it. That's true. So Sunday was the Washougal cyclocross race, and I'm not sure how I'm going to feel, if I'm going to be able to race, if it's going to be okay, because I bounced off the pavement and I didn't feel so hot. But I went out there. The course was fantastic. It was short with all these punchy climbs. There was a ton of... The Washougal venue is just a great place for a cyclocross race or a mountain bike race or...
Motocross.
Or motocross race.
Kind of what it's known for nationally.
So, and Scott Schultz has been given like the keys to the kingdom there. Like the owners just say, here's the keys, do whatever you want. Go wherever you want. Do whatever you want. It's all good.
And for those that don't know of this place, it's how many acres? About 80? 100 or something like that?
It's like 120 acres or something
massive.
like that. It's massive.
Yeah.
So he's been able to build mountain bike trails that didn't exist before.
Cross-country mountain bike, short track, cyclocross.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the beauty of the cyclocross race is you can keep it all within like earshot of this PA system.
Yep.
And so it just the venue is just great.
Plenty of parking,
Free
great for
parking, free
spectating.
camping, water. It's just it's a great location for a race.
A lot out there. A lot of space.
Yeah. So I lined up in the 50-plus field. There were only about 30 of us this week. I didn't race all that great, but I held on for 6th place in the 50-plus field, which was fantastic.
Perfectly fine.
Yeah,
Who
which
won?
was perfectly fine. Michael Brown from Bend came out and won. So he's won most of the races that Bart Bowen hasn't.
Okay.
He actually beat Bart Bowen at one of the races.
Wow.
Yeah, so at Corn Cross. Anyway, so that was fun. It was fun to be there and be there with the team. We certainly would have liked to see more teammates out there. Where are you guys at these cyclocross races? There should be like 40 of us out there, and there's like 15.
Huh.
Anyway,
Don't get me started.
I know. I'll stop. So that was great. Tuesday came around and we had the 4th Trophy Cup race. This is the night race that's at Portland International Raceway. And I lined up on the front row. There were a few people missing this week, but man, I did not feel good. It was hot that day. I did not feel good before the race. I didn't feel good warming up. I thought, this is going to be...
This is the day that was 90, wasn't it?
Yes.
It's really hot.
And maybe it was the heat that made me not feel good, but man, I did not feel good.
There's a lot of other stuff going around, too.
Yeah. So they blow the whistle. I slot in at about 8th position because I did not want to just go to the front. And the front 8 guys, we all stayed together for like the whole first lap. So the lap is like 1.7 miles long or something like that. And we came through on lap 1. It ended up being a 5-lap race, I think, for us. We came through at lap 1, and I had gapped just a little bit. This is kind of an interesting story because this is not something I normally have been able to do. But we were lined straight up, and nobody was like drilling it on the front as we came through the finishing stretch. The finishing stretch is paved at Portland Trophy Cup. And so... We had all the regular hitters, 1 through 7, and everybody right on each other's wheel. And I had gapped just after there's a jump. There's a party zone with a jump at Portland Trophy Cup, and I had gapped at the jump just a little bit, and so I had to like push to catch back on the wheel. And I thought, okay, if I get on the group, it's going to be better for me that I don't let them get away. So right as we come through on lap 1, I barely get on the end. And right as I got to the end, I realized nobody was pushing. And in my head, I'm like, okay, just sit on and ride around with these guys and make your move on like lap 4. Don't go now. And my legs went, F that, we're going right now. And so I thought, and I had this like debate in my head right at that very moment. Should I go right now or should I?
Yes, we're doing this.
And I thought, you know what? This is like a practice race. Screw it. I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go as hard as I can right now. And so I drilled it and slingshotted around everybody but one person, which was Shannon Scarrett. So Shannon Scarrett he's in my age group. He's a former professional cyclocross racer. He's very good. He's been dealing with injuries for the last couple years, so he's a little more human than normal years. But he saw me coming, and he jumped to...
Got on your wheel.
He actually got in front of me.
Oh, okay.
And Nick Larrett's the guy who won last week, which was so good, saw me coming as well, and he jumped too. But I was able, after a turn or two, to get around Nick. So here I am, sitting in second place and thinking, okay, I'm just going to keep drilling it as hard as I can. This is not something I normally would have done. I would have like sat in and then tried to go, but I just tried something different. And I was able to
hang in there,
everybody off. I ended up second place.
Not bad.
In that race.
Nice.
Just behind
Awesome.
Shannon Scarrett, who was, I think he was like 30 seconds ahead of me. So... I think that means I'm now tied for the lead in the series for the 50 plus, even though I've never won a race.
Pressure's on now.
The pressure's on. So
How many more races are there?
there's 2 more races.
All right.
So
Are you going
anything
to be
can
able to do
happen.
both of them, or are you going out of town?
I am. Actually, that's the last thing I'm doing is the last Trophy Cup race, and then I'm leaving the next morning to go to Utah. So, so that was...
Sounds awesome.
It was kind of exciting. Not feeling good, taking a risk, doing a move that I probably normally wouldn't try or do in that field, and it just worked out for me. So
Nice.
I'm kind of thrilled about that.
Sweet.
Anyway, that's it. That was way too much. Wow.
It's okay. People know that your back pedals are going to go touch longer than the rest of ours.
Jake, what about you?
I got nothing to share with you guys.
You been on the trainer?
I've been riding on the trainer, and that's about it. I've been so freaking consumed with these big work projects that are finally starting to get wrapped up, which is pretty awesome. But I haven't had time to get out, and the weather's kind of been a little bit all over the place. I mean, we've had random like 93-degree days, and then like the next day it's like 60 degrees and raining, pouring down rain, and I don't know, just it's been efficient for me just to jump on the trainer, and I don't know, I'm just
How's trainer stuff going?
It's going all right. I my hip has kind of been a little cranky this past week, so that's a little bit interesting. It's been 6 months since I had my little procedure thing, so I'm supposed to follow up with my doctor, and it's on my list of things to do is to schedule an appointment to go in and see him again and see what the next steps would be. So, but it's not like something that's going to keep me off the trainer. It's just going to keep riding, going to keep trying, and I got to probably spend a little bit more time stretching. Got to listen to my own advice. Hard to do sometimes, but I don't.
Are you tired of telling your friend Jake to shut up here?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I'll shut up now. Anyway, moving on. Yeah. Hey, is that
Champ Bailey. Is he around?
Champ Bailey.
He's here.
Champ is
He's in
here.
the building.
Did you bring Dorothy with you?
Dorothy Mantooth, my favorite clam chowder.
Does
Yes.
Champ eat seafood?
Champ does eat seafood. Lance does not. Anyway, Champ, there was some great racing and a lot of stuff that has happened in this last week or two. We have had the World Championships start in Zurich, Switzerland, the UCI World Championships for the road. Last weekend we had the individual time trial. And I don't know if any of you guys saw any of these races.
I just read the results. I didn't see them.
Yeah.
So Remco backed up his Olympic gold medal and ended up winning by 6 seconds. He beat Filippo Ganna by 6 seconds, even though Remco is like a foot and a half shorter.
It's funny. You get those guys all on the podium, and he's standing dead center, and he's still shorter than the guys.
He's still shorter than them standing on lower steps. But the real drama happened in the start chute. I don't know if you saw this.
No.
But Remco rolled up to the start chute, jumped on his bike,
Dropped his chain.
and dropped his chain. So with like a minute and 10 seconds before his start time, he clips into his pedals and he back pedals a couple times to try to like re-engage his power meter, and the chain dropped off.
Oh, no.
So why is the chain dropping off? Well, it's because he's got a 62 chain ring on there.
Oh, my.
Won by
62.
62.
6-2.
62 chain ring on there. That's a one by and a brand new chain, right? Brand new chain for this, and it popped off. And the mechanic, guy right there is trying desperately to get it on, and he's struggling. And so Remco's standing off the bike to the side. They're trying to like get the chain back on. The camera is like right in their face. Remco finally shows the camera guy away. Like, would you let this guy work? You're probably freaking him out. And he barely gets the chain back on and jumps on his bike with like 15 seconds before he starts.
Wow.
So it looked like he was going to miss his start time. But he managed to get on, get clipped in, and just go. The bad news is his power meter did not reconnect. So he did the whole race without his power meter.
Blind. Wow.
Blind. So, which is...
For those that have never done a time trial before, you really need that just to really manage your watts, because when you first get going, I mean, he's a professional, so he's going to have a pretty good idea. But that first 3, 4, 5 minutes, you always come out too hot, and you've got to look down and you're like, hey, back off, because, we got the rest of this race.
Too much, yes. And it was like a 46-minute race. It was not short.
Yeah.
And so he was on a podcast this morning that was just put out, and he said if he'd had a power meter, he probably would have been 25 seconds faster. But he messed some things up without having the power meter.
Curious, what brand made his drivetrain? Is it a Shimano? Is it SRAM?
That's a good question. I don't know.
And what was the power meter?
I don't know that
Come
either.
on, man. I want to know these things.
I was just happy that I got this other information.
I mean, it's
about
obviously going to be a sponsor of his, so that's not a good look.
Yeah, but he's on Specialized, right? Because he's with this is a Belgian bike. I don't know.
I'm sure he was still riding
He was
his
probably
Specialized
still riding
bike.
his Specialized bike.
There's a good lesson there, though, right? You should do at least some of your training, some of your intervals with RPE instead of relying on a power meter, just to get that feeling of what a certain power output should feel like, right? So relative perceived exertion, you should spend some time sort
Yeah,
of
that's good.
getting used to your own power output, what you're able to, how that feels.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I agree.
So pretty incredible that he won both the Olympics and the world time trial. So that hasn't happened in a long time. So, and he beat Filippo Ganna, who probably pushed 80 watts average higher than Remco did.
It's a lot heavier dude.
But Remco's little and very slippery, and he just kudos to him. Man, he's having a great year.
Sure
He's
is,
having
yeah.
a great year.
We
give him a hard time,
We've
but-
shared. We've dug some hate on that boy.
He's one of the big four. What is he? What was the big
Big
eight?
six?
Big
The
six.
big six.
He's one of the big six.
you think he's going to back it up this weekend in
Well,
the road race?
So that's an interesting thing. So the road race happens this Sunday, I believe. It's some monstrous, what is it, like 180-mile race or something like that with 15,000 feet of climbing. There's so much climbing on this course that I think it kind of favors Pogačar, but
He's not
Pogačar,
racing, right?
yes, he is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Pogačar's trying to do the rare triple where you win the Giro, you win the Tour, and you win the World Championship road race. So, so he is there. And different, it's, World Champs are different. No race radios, different teammates. So that changes
He
the
lost
dynamic.
one of his teammates for this as well, one of his countrymen. Was it Mikel Landa? I think it was, maybe? Anyway, one of those guys got hurt. And
Landa's
he's,
Spanish.
Yeah, he's not. He's not.
maybe that's not whoever it
Whoever,
is.
he lost somebody.
Yeah, I can look that up in a moment.
Anyway, so pretty exciting. Remco is geared up for it. Pogačar's geared up for it. Van der Poel has been trying very hard to engage for this race as well. He wants to back up his win from last year, so he would really like to win it. So those three guys. I don't think this course favors Van der Poel as much as it does Remco or
Yeah. I think so. Right.
Pogačar.
It's just because of the hills. There's
Yes.
enough hills.
yeah. There's just enough that it should be
You'd
interesting to see
think
how that
if
goes.
Pogačar's in shape, which he probably is, he probably wouldn't line up if he wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think any of those hills are that sustained. It's not like a tour climb, right? It's just many repetitions of
super long
one or
race.
two
I think you're
shorter
right.
hills.
Yep, I think you're right.
So Van der
No
Poel's,
big.
yeah,
So he could still
do
do okay.
But he can sprint with sprinters. He can get in weird breakaways if there's anything late in
True.
the race. I mean, if he's, I think it would behoove him to like wait for later in the race because it's a maturation race. It's like definitely
It's like a 7-hour race.
it's going to be who has good nutrition and all the things, right?
Yeah.
Like that's going to be tricky.
I think when Pogačar goes, when he does his explosive jump, which he will, Van der Poel's probably the only one that'll match it. Whether he'll be able to hold on as
Yeah.
the elevation gains start to
Right.
accumulate is a different story. But on that one explosive effort that you're going to see from Pogačar, there's going to be one or two people that can go with that maximum. Van der Poel
Mohoric.
is probably one of those.
Okay.
Mahoric was the one.
Mohoric is injured and is out?
Yeah, he's out of the
Okay.
World Championship. But anyway,
I wonder who else is on his team.
Well, Roglic,
Is Roglic doing it? Is
Yep.
he going to do it in support?
good question. Roglic and I think Roglic and Pogačar are friendly towards each other.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
think
they're
so.
friends.
Right. I think that sounds correct to me. That sounds. But
So-
if Roglic were to work for him, I'd be like, oh well, that's helpful.
But will they race each other or will they work together?
They should work together on the same team.
You would think.
Even if they work together and they're like, hey, let's work together until after 100 miles, and then after that,
Then it's game on.
But
Yeah,
you'd
I don't
think
know.
that they would want to work together some.
So
I don't know.
pretty crazy. Another thing that really should talk about, the women's individual time trial was won by Grace Brown, the Australian.
Okay.
So she also backed up her Olympic gold medal. So she beat Demi Vollering in both the Olympics and at the individual time trial in the World Championships.
It's not a fluke.
So pretty incredible that both the men's and the women's both won the Olympic gold and the World Championships. And pretty crazy. Crazy thing about Grace Brown, she is sticking to her guns that she is retiring at the end of this year. So she won't even wear the World Championship jersey in a time trial.
She'll wear it around her house.
She'll probably wear it on
She's
training
gonna get
rides.
one.
That's
She's
what I
got
would do.
bathrobe. She'll just have one built into a bathroom.
That's a rainbow stripes on the bathrobe. That's a
Just
good
hang
idea.
around the house. It'd be great.
So she's retiring to move on, and I think she's doing one other race where she might wear it before the year's over. But good for you, Grace Brown. Pretty crazy.
That's good.
Some sad news in the field. There was a junior women's rider who actually died yesterday.
Muriel Ferrer, I think her name was.
Okay.
Yeah, that super unfortunate. She went down on like a forested road. It was kind of. It took her a while to even figure out that she went down and died.
Wow.
She was life-flighted.
Well, yeah, she didn't die on the scene, but
Yeah, she was life-flighted to a hospital, but she didn't make it, and they don't know how the crash happened or what happened with the crash because she was by herself. So that's kind of sad that at these World Championships somebody went down. It happened to be a junior woman. I'm guessing
she was 18.
She was 18.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a U23, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah,
Pretty sad.
super sad.
As far as racing goes, I think that's about all I want to talk about. Is there anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Women's Ironman World Championships was.
Oh.
I didn't watch it because
I didn't either.
Well, it's in Nice. It doesn't feel the same as when they have it in Kona.
Yeah.
But German Laura Phillips won, and she's been knocking at the door for years. So it's good to see her win.
Was she one
She's
of
kind
the
a fan
favorites?
favorite. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because a lot of the favorites weren't there. Daniela Reef, she dropped out. Annie Hogg, who has also won World Championships, was not there. And then Lucy Charles Barclay was like last minute pulled out with like a muscle strain or something like that. So,
Okay.
and she's a top performer. I think she's finished as high as like third in the World Championships before. So, yeah, she's a known entity. She's solid. Kate Matthews got second from Great Britain, I think, who is maybe a little bit newer, not super new to the sport. She's been around for a little ways, but I feel like she had like a bad, I could be mixing her up with someone, but I feel like she was in a bad car accident at some point. So we'll have the guys later in October.
They're not even
in Kona.
backing them up weekend to weekend, huh? They're spreading that out quite a
They
bit.
spread it out a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not for a month, and it's in Kona. The men are
They're
in Kona.
swapping Kona and Nice basically for racing now.
So the men will be in Nice next year,
Right.
and the women will
And
be
they were
in Kona.
They were in Nice previously,
Got it.
and so yeah. So we'll see.
Sweet.
Take a little pressure off the Kona
Exactly.
locals.
Yeah.
Because that race weekend is hard for
They
the
did.
island.
They did one year where they actually did both of them on separate days, which was really awesome because then like the women have the limelight for their race, which is great, and then the guys have the field the next day, and that did not go over well with the locals.
It is hard on the locals.
It's hard. It's hard. There's like one road, right?
There's
So
like one main highway
there's one
on
road.
the road.
They're gonna
and
shut it down.
They're going to shut it down. That does make it hard for 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
That makes it hard.
Yeah, they did Saturday and Sunday a couple years ago.
In other racing news, kind of like that Steamboat Gravel will most likely look very different next year. There were some
Locals don't want to.
No, locals still don't want. It's Steamboat Gravel is interesting. There's been about 3,000 racers at every year since they started in 2019. And the city Steamboat loves it.
Mm-hmm.
The county of Routt County does not.
Yeah.
And all the money goes towards the city. None of the money goes towards the county. So there's no real great benefit to the county residents. And the race started with so many people right off the bat that the local ranchers, or a few of the local ranchers, have been up in arms about the race. Just the race this last year, there were signs everywhere. I mentioned this. Where
you did.
Like cyclists not welcome.
Okay, honest question. How much of their life is being like burdened? I mean,
It's a great question.
Well, you got to think about their business, their ranching businesses that they're basically like having to put on pause for a day, and some of that work can't be paused if you're a rancher.
so
it's haying season, and so
do they have trucks that are trying to get in and out and they can't do that?
Yeah, especially if there's a whole bunch of vehicles on the road, not just cyclists, like spectators clogging up the roads, cyclists riding 10 wide in certain areas, stuff like that. It can disrupt, the local ranchers. So, but yeah, it's 1 day. So
It's 1 day
so
with a little bit of like busyness on the surrounding bays, probably.
I mean, honestly, the only thing I can truly think of is like if you're ranching, you're on your ranch, you're on your land, and nobody's riding through there and impeding your ability to do what you're trying to do. I can understand though if you've got deliveries coming and you've got flatbed trucks showing up to pick up big, orders of hay or whatever that is, and I can't think of anything else that's going to truly impact them.
What about getting equipment out there to do some of the work?
I mean, that should be on their own property. I mean, there's not like
they don't own every piece of equipment under the sun.
The
I'd love to know more about like what their big beef is with this because
that was perfect. What their big beef is, the ranchers. What are the ranchers' big beef?
There's lots of rumors of people peeing and pooping in people's front yards.
Okay, that's crap. That shouldn't happen. Well, another pun.
So that actually
that
rumor came out before the race. So everybody it became a joke during the race. Hey, no pooping in people's driveways.
Don't poop in the cow pastures where the cows are pooping.
Right, exactly. So that was part of the issue too. It really taxed the sheriff's department as well. Yeah. And the sheriff department said, you're not doing it the same way next year. They said, if you want to do a race, you can't have more than 1,000 people.
Oh, no. That's not going to work.
You can't do 3,000 people. It's too taxing. It's too much. So the organizers, their idea for next year is to have a ride on Saturday, which is no podiums, no prize money, same course. Uh-huh. And then have the actual race with podiums and prize money on Sunday.
A quote-unquote ride isn't going to be much different than a race because people are going to still pay to do it. It's just not a sanctioned race where people are going.
But you can have. They didn't want a race more than 1,200 people. Mm-hmm. So if they do 1,200 people to do the ride,
so just break it up into 2 different days.
That
makes sense. Yeah.
And then instead of the course being a 125-mile big loop, have it be like a 40-mile loop that they do 3 times.
That's a shame. I've done it once a couple of years ago, and that was really a big part of the appeal was the whole scale of it. It was quite an experience to line up on the start with 1,000 other people on bikes. And it's if you scale it down, change it and make the courses shorter and take some of the challenge out of it, it's definitely not as appealing, for sure.
I think it started off so hot and so big that the community weren't able to grow into it. Mm-hmm. Unbound's been around since like 2005, and the community just friggin' loves it. Yeah, you are so welcome everywhere you go. But they started this first race with 3,000 people, boom, and it messed with
the municipalities. There aren't that much bigger than Steamboat, right? I mean, how are they dealing with the law enforcement issues that need to be enforced or there to help out with whatever it is that they need help with?
See, Steamboat is a resort town anyway, and they've got plenty of infrastructure there to deal with that huge influx of tourism for that one weekend because they deal with it every weekend during the winter. But I think the city, it's incumbent upon the city to spread some of that wealth out. There's people coming into town and spending money, and how do you get that out to the ranchers? How do you make it beneficial for everybody? Because the scale of that thing. You said 3,000 people, and I think entry was what, $150, $200.
It was more than $200.
Yeah, so you would imagine. I mean, it must be a massive overheads to put an event like that on, but still, could you not make it pay a little bit for that? Could you not compensate the rural communities out there somehow?
My impression of some of these resort towns are like, okay, we can't do that. Well, let's reach into our box of 20,000 other events that want to be at our location, and they just don't care. Like I'm thinking about Whistler mostly for like Ironman. It's just like, oh, you're not going to pay us, whatever it is, $40 million to use our location. All right, we'll just use someone else. Like there'll be a mountain biking thing that we'll do, or that, or whatever. It'll be easier. It's like I just think that Steamboat has a lot of opportunities to not worry about angry whoever, angry ranchers, or I don't know.
In a way, it was bound to happen. The scale of these events, and you could even imagine it in some sense happening in Unbound as well at some point. If you keep having so many people show up, I mean, there's nothing else in the cycling recreational calendar that matches the scale of these events. And
no, they're gigantic.
They're gigantic. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I lived out there as well a long time ago, but Routt County is a very conservative county. And I can't help but think that maybe I'm wrong here, but some of it is just this an inbuilt aversion to all these sort of lycra-clad city slickers coming into there.
This is my little private part of the world.
Right.
Keep your crap out of here.
Yeah.
Don't disrupt my life.
Yeah.
So anyway, it will remain to be seen what happens next year with Steamboat. It could be very different. So we'll see what happens.
Sounds like that's inevitable, but I'm curious to see how that unfolds. So interesting.
Champ out. Wow.
Well, Champ, you did forget one thing. There was an American who landed on the podium in the women's time trial.
Yes. Chloe Dygert.
Thank you. Sorry,
Chloe Dygert did end up in third place in the time trial, which is fantastic. She was desperately trying to repeat her world championship from last year.
Yep.
But couldn't quite go as fast as Demi Vollering or this Grace Brown.
Yep.
So good for you, Chloe Dygert.
How many more years do you think she's got in her?
I don't know. That's interesting.
I still think she's pretty close to the top of her game. But, I mean, if she didn't have that horrific crash a few years back, I mean, we probably would have seen a few more world championships out of her. But
we would have.
She seems like she's hungry, though. That's good.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Champ.
Yep.
All right, guys. Let's jump into part 3 of our little series of our winter prep. We've done the do's, we've done the don'ts of all the things in your winter training and getting ready for it. So we know what to do and what not to do. Now it's like, all right, how do we prepare for this and how do we execute it? So my question to you guys is, how do you go about your preparation for your off-season training? I mean, we're there. You should be right in the thick of that in terms of like what you're doing to start your training program, because it's probably for Ian, it's probably going to start with you doing some zone 2 and all that other stuff, and you're probably just getting into that. And Matt, I'm not sure if you're going to be doing an off season.
When was my on season? That's the real question.
Well, we're getting you prepped and ready to go for next year because you're going to race with me, right?
There you go.
And then Lance is still kind of in the throes of cyclocross season.
When is his off? He's never going to have an off season. I'll never have an on season. So it's a good balance.
I'll have an off weekend.
There you go.
So how are you guys preparing? How are you guys getting ready
laying
for
on
this?
the pavement bleeding? That's your off. That's his off time. He's on his off time right now. He's going to get on the bike and hammer as hard as he can now.
Yep. Okay.
I guess we're back.
I had 20 minutes off while I mopped up the blood.
One thing that people might want to do is consider re-signing back up for Zwift if they are discontinued. Like, I don't think it's a bad idea if you're paying monthly for Zwift. They do have a yearly membership now. They didn't have that in the past, but it seems like now might be a good idea to refire up that Zwift account. You just leave yours running year round?
No,
or?
I paused mine in April.
Okay.
And just re-upped it because I re-upped it like 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
I did not pause mine, but I really should.
Yeah.
And I'm just flushing mine.
I wasn't
down
sure
the
it was going to be a good thing to repause it because there were a couple times where I'm like, I should just get on the trainer. And I went, no, forget it. I'm going outside. Yeah. But I did, man. I got through 6 months without getting on the trainer.
I actually think that that's a good balance. If you're like, let's do 6 months on, 6 months off on Zwift and and use it that way, right? Like that seems like a right balance to me.
It could be. So that's one thing for sure.
And I think we do have a couple more weeks where we're still good for weather. It's a little rainy out there right now.
It's rainy today, but
I rode the e-bike up here.
And it was fine, right?
It's fine. It's a little wet.
I think in terms of executing the plan, first of all, you need a plan, right? First of all,
you need a plan to execute.
You need to sit down and look at and make up some goals, like have a reason and have actual defined goals of what you're training for. So that's going to guide you in a lot of ways. So without that plan, I mean, all of my guys right now, the number one issue is motivation this time of year. like it's waning, right? Most people have done some racing, even if they're doing cyclocross. That's, you could say, in another few weeks that's going to be winding down too. So how do you stay motivated? Part of your execution of your winter training should be to sit down, write out some goals, look at the calendar and say, what is it that I'm training for?
Yeah, got to have that.
You got to have that.
What about finding a training partner? Do you guys ever, and you really shouldn't totally rely on somebody for that, for your training, but it does definitely help keep you accountable, because like we've said, the weather can get pretty crappy, and sometimes it's easy just to say, nah, screw it, or go do something else, or not give it your all on a trainer. But if you've got somebody knocking on your door, somebody that you need to be accountable to show up and go out there and get her done, and you don't want to leave said person hanging, that's always
absolutely
a good way.
And I think that fits in with the rest of my philosophy regarding off-season training, is to take a broad approach to it. As you get closer to your races, of course, you're going to get more specific with your training. But right now is a good time to holistically look at your health and wellness. And part of that is your friendships and relationships, right? So it's, it can be a depressing time of year to go into the winter and the days are getting shorter, and you end up not seeing those people that give you a lot of energy. Right. Sometimes you miss the weekly interaction with the people you race with. You don't get out for train with people as often. So having a partner or a bunch of people who you meet up with regularly is definitely a huge step to maintaining your overall wellness. So your health, your social interactions, your mental health, all of that stuff you need to, I would say, take this broad approach to and make sure that you've got a good psychological and physical base to start your training.
You kind of hit the nail on the head with that for me too, and it was one of the things I was going to talk about. This is a good time of year too to kind of take an honest look at the nicks and dings and bumps and bruises that you've sustained over the past year, or things that might still be problematic, and kind of get those things addressed. Taken care of. I mean, me personally, I'm going in to see 2 different doctors for 2 different things, because I want to make sure that they're not going to be problematic for me for this off season. I want to make sure that I'm not doing anything that's going to put me behind, because I got plans, I got goals that I want to do for next year. So that's a really good call. The mental health component of it is definitely a strong thing, because that's something even in this day and age, I mean, it's become a lot more like, not mainstream, but a lot more socially acceptable to talk about those things. But that's an honest to goodness thing that almost everybody deals with at some point in time. So being able to keep that in check as well, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And, we look at off season, we look at it as base training, getting that base ready for the more specific work to come. And part of having a healthy base is being mentally in a good space, physically in a good space, So we should talk about going to the gym and, maybe looking at, your calorie consumption. Are you just getting that whole base ready for the more specific training?
Yeah,
that's going to come later.
Another thing that you should really consider doing right now too is, like we've talked about, like, get the program, do all the things, make sure that you've got training partners, but know what you're training for. Like, what races are you going to do next year? What are you putting on the calendar? And if you've got the option to go out there and sign up for those, do it now. Like, for instance, the Gorge Gravel Grinder is one that everybody likes to put on the calendar. And it seems like that's one of the more early season gravel races. You can sign up for that right now. And you know what? If you want to take it serious, sign up right now, get a training program going, and start working towards that so that you know exactly why it is that you're doing. Don't say, well, I'm going to go get fast for something that I want to do next year, and not really have that really keyed in so that you know how to train specifically for that.
Exactly.
And plus,
I did sign up already for that gravel grinder, because I think it's one of the best races on the calendar.
Yeah,
so I know what to expect, and I know the date that I'm going to be doing this race on already. So it's given me something to go for.
Early bird registration too. You get a few points off, or you save a few bucks on it. That's kind of nice.
It also sells out.
Yeah.
So getting that on your calendar is important too. Just like Sister Stampede, a big mountain bike race that we have here in Sisters, Oregon, it also sells out very early. So that was another one. That's not till Memorial Day weekend next year.
Yeah.
It's not till May. And I've already signed up for that one as well, because I wanted to make sure I had a spot. in it.
And having some financial stake in it already is
that's true.
another part of the motivation equation, right? That you've already put down $100 or so to race on that day.
Yeah.
You've signed up.
You're invested. Yep.
You got an investment in it.
Yeah. What about you, Matt? Is there anything that you want
So
to add to this?
I usually recommend for triathletes to focus on swim in the winter months because it's just like this perfect opportunity to. Yeah, you can't do open water swimming as easily, but like it's a good time to just get in the lap pool and do a lot of meters and things like that. It's an easy time to do it also just because like you can decrease your bike volume when it gets cold and gross out, and it's just easier. You just like go hit the pool, do longer swims, less bikes, and then you kind of keep the running volume similar probably.
Gotcha. Hepler, got anything else you want to add to this whole getting prepared for your off season, like what you do? I mean, you're going to get through your cyclocross season. How much time you taking off, and what are you going to do to get prepared mentally, physically, emotionally to actually start your training?
My volume goes down so drastically during cyclocross season because I'm not doing like 4-hour rides on the weekends.
Yeah.
So my weekly volume kind of plummets. So once cyclocross season is done for me, and I won't make it, our cross season goes through November, almost all the way through November here. And I won't go that far. I do not think I will go that deep. But I'll only take a week or so or a weekend because my volume is already cut down so much, so that when I kind of revamp for
You took that day
next
off
year,
after you crashed.
I took a day off. I took one day off.
You took that day off.
So your preparation is barely preparing. You just like you take a week off and then you just right back to it, huh?
And right back to it will be without
Structure.
It'll be structured, but it'll be zone 2 or sweet spot. I won't be doing intensity unless I'm doing a group ride with you idiots.
Yeah.
So it'll be, and my weekly volume will probably go up. I'll probably do 15 hours a week, whereas now I'm just barely doing 10.
Sure.
I don't believe you should take intensity completely off the table during base season. I think
Maybe that's good advice.
Well, I mean, I keep banging on about this Salvi shootout ride. It's only one example of a weekly challenge that you can do where you're definitely way above zone 2, and it just keeps you a little bit fresh. It keeps your riding skills.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And for all of the time that I've been doing any kind of racing and whatnot, I've always had something in there where there is some intensity, some hot stuff and some spicy stuff. However, like you really need to listen to your body, because if you're going out there and you're forcing yourself to do it and you feel like things just don't feel right and you're just, you're getting dropped and you're just feeling like run into the ground and fatigued.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's when you need to back off. And
that's why I'm saying once a week of
Yeah.
high intensity ride is
Sure.
sufficient.
And plus,
right?
that makes it fun.
Yeah.
Those kinds of rides, those are fun. And that's something fun to look forward to. And if you've got that on your calendar, as opposed to like, oh my gosh, I got to go grind out another 3 or 4 hours out there and it's 40 degrees and it's, misting or raining on me.
Yeah.
And that's just like, that's gross.
Yeah.
Or the thought of sitting on a trainer for God knows how many hours to do your workout. I mean, that's kind of gross. So having that, just kind of a nice little carrot to keep you going.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, like all the intense workouts I've done this week, I have not done them on the trainer. I have done them outdoors, and I've tried to gear my intense intervals around some Strava segment that I wanted to attack, because I knew it would be doubly motivating.
Yeah.
Trying to get the segment KOM and trying to complete my interval.
By the way, did you get the email from Strava that said they're cleaning up the whole segment thing? They're going to go in and delete a whole bunch of duplicated segments or segments that are part of another segment and
We're gonna lose
clean it up.
All of my segments are going to be gone.
Yeah.
All your KOMs are
Clean
Apparently, they're improving the algorithm to automatically flag rides that are
Thank
done
God.
inappropriately.
Please.
There's a big movement anyway.
Or make
But
it easier to flag rides on the app and not just on
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the weekly group ride, it's a great way to just keep that once a week intensity in there. Great way to stay in touch with your riding friends, and it sort of keeps you motivated.
Absolutely.
And it's not like work. It's not the same as doing VO2 max intervals on a trainer inside. It's
Those are terrible.
those are terrible.
Especially in erg mode. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
My next thing I wanted to ask you, and Lance kind of already hit it with this one right here. What are some steps that you can recommend or suggest so people can find success? And one of them being, like, if you do need to go do some hard interval sets and there's no racing to be had, or you can't jump on a group, go find a Strava segment that's something that you can, kind of tag and say, all right, this is where I'm going to do my intervals, or I'm going to create a route, and I know that I'm going to do all my intervals based around these segments that are built into said route, because I've done that plenty of times. And that's a good way to get your volume in and get your workout, because you're not going to work as hard if you're by yourself doing an interval set with nothing to pay off other than like I did that. That's tough. I mean, you can do it, but it's not as easily repeatable, and you're not going to push yourself quite as hard as you would if you know that there's something that you're trying to accomplish. So what are some other steps to that you can recommend to find some success for people during the training?
Let me just clarify on that. When I do my outside workouts, I have the workout loaded on my Wahoo, and if there there's a couple of segments out near Vancouver Lake that are dirt that I have wanted for years. It's just whatever. And so I was riding out there, warming up, getting ready for this, and I realized that the timing wasn't going to be right. And on the Wahoo, I just paused my workout so that the interval started when the segment started. You can, on the Wahoo, you can pause your workout and your ride keeps recording, and then you can resume the workout at the right time so that it lined up with the segment. Or like if you're rolling up on a stoplight and you're in the middle of an interval, you can pause it with
mid-interval just to not get screwed up. That's cool.
Or you got messed up because of traffic or something, you can jump back a few intervals. You can rewind a couple intervals and redo them. So that's one thing with a head unit that you can do that with Zwift too. If you can back up an interval or redo it or skip an interval
on Zwift.
On Zwift, if you're doing a workout on Zwift, you can.
I know you can jump forward, skip one, but you can go back
too.
Really, I didn't understand. I didn't know that you could do that.
That all assumes that you're not visually challenged like me, and you can actually see your head unit.
I know which button it is. I can't quite read what it says, but I know if I hit this one, it's going to pause my workout, but not pause my ride.
Right.
That's so,
so when you're doing that on the Wahoo, because I don't think I've ever done what you're talking about. And let's say that you've got a segment that you've got start, and if you're a paid Strava Premium member, it's going to pop up on your computer, and it's going to tell you like, hey, it's going to start in this amount of time. Then on mark, set, go, and it's going to give you all the data of like where you're at, how far ahead, behind you are, and all that fun stuff. Can you see that as well as your workout at the same time?
Not at the same time. You have to be on one of those pages, either the workout page or the starred segment page.
Which one are you on?
I'm on the workout page.
Okay, so when you're doing that interval,
so disciplined of you.
I quit starring segments because there was just too many. They pop up all the time. I'm
like, them all. It's like a dog chasing a tennis ball. Like every time it goes off a ride, it pops up. Here's a segment. Let's go.
The other thing too is I'm listening to music or I'm listening to podcasts while I'm riding or doing these workouts. And in hard interval short workouts, I stop my music and I don't listen to anything because the computer gives you a 3-second warning that your interval is starting or your interval is ending. And if I'm listening to something, I can't hear it starting, and I don't want to just stare at the screen. I need to make sure I don't crash.
The curbs will jump out at you.
The curbs will jump out at me. So I end up turning off my headphones that I'm wearing and listen for the beeps from the computer.
So if you're chasing a segment, though, while doing your interval, how do you know are you just going 100%?
Yeah.
And just if you get it, then great. But
and I don't know until I get home and load the ride.
Yeah, but if you're looking at that screen, it might say like you're 2 seconds behind. You're going to push just that much harder.
That's true.
So
it'd
be nice if you could
destroy the rest of your intervals.
That only works on all out intervals, though, right?
Correct.
Which
so like I took a segment this week, and I was supposed to be doing 30-second intervals, and it was a 3-minute segment. And I just
I'm going to do 6 at one time.
I just went straight through the rest interval. I'm just like, okay, I'm just going for it. And then when I finished the segment, I redid part of the set.
Total lack of discipline.
Yes, I redid part of the set with the right rest interval because I wasn't getting the right rest interval.
So does that fall under the don't category, or is that part of the
Don't do what
prep?
Lance does.
That's exactly what you're
Don't
supposed
do
to
what
do.
Lance does.
Any other tips for success that you guys can throw out there for people so that they can, once they've decided what race they're going to be doing, once they've got their program in place, like how can they stay on track and how can they be successful by following your tips? You guys got
So this is a great time right now, just as you're starting your base phase or actually off season. This is a perfect time now to get your ass to the gym. That's what I say.
Okay.
Also, might be a good time to invest in like freshening up your indoor cycling space. Like just making it a little bit easier for you to. Whether or not you have to like get into this before work or after work, whatever it is, just knowing that you have a nice location and nice equipment to use is sometimes nice. The other thing I've noticed is like if I have a new bike or if I have a new bike trainer or whatever it is, like I kind of want to use it. So just having like, spending a little bit of money, investing a little bit of money in that now is probably a good time to do that. Some good sales on Wahoo stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else.
I like all the different Wahoo trainers on sale.
That's probably what people want anyway.
Tax is going to be coming out with some deals as well. So stay
Black
tuned for that.
Friday, of course, will be coming up soon. But
Yeah, there's
I do think though one of the best investments you can make at the moment is a gym membership.
yeah,
I don't disagree with
Yeah.
you.
Coach. What about a coach?
Well,
Of course.
that goes without saying.
Ah.
No, but like a lot of people have got equipment, bands, and so on to work out at home. They have a home gym set up, and that is great. But definitely, the thing with the gym is you've got access to all this professional equipment and heavy weights, right? So Jake, right? Your winter gym training should really consist of sort of a more classical approach to muscle strength building. So sets of 8 to 12 reps, heavy weights. Sometimes that's not the kind of, you can't get that workout for large muscle groups from your home gym equipment.
Ian, if you were going to pick 3 lifts that you should do all winter, what would those be?
I would do
Compound movements.
yeah, back squats
Yep.
for sure.
Back squats, what's that mean? With the bar on
With
your
the-
shoulders.
yes.
A free bar on your shoulders.
Yes.
Okay.
I would do deadlift
Deadlift
and leg press.
and leg
Oh, I thought
press.
you were going to say power snatches, but no.
Yeah, and some ab work, right? I would
Core, yeah.
core stuff for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I would agree with that.
Yeah.
For me, though, personally, I don't do back squats. More broken parts and pieces on my body.
Yeah.
I've
Have
got-
you been
Well,
lifting
you-
still?
No, I stopped going to the gym back in April.
Yeah. Are you going to pick that back up?
Yeah,
What's your plan?
October 1st. So
The-
next week,
the
yeah.
leg press basically works the same.
Yeah, it does.
Muscles
You know,
and it's
Without
safer.
stressing your back as
Yeah,
much.
one of the things
Yeah.
that I really do like is a good trap bar. And
Trap bar, yeah.
You're not gonna. Well, you can still get pretty decent amount of weight, but it just doesn't require you to load on your shoulders and whatnot.
Yeah.
You're just picking up the bar. And if you want to get one of those, they're not terribly expensive. You can usually find them on the marketplaces for not very much money, maybe $100-$150.
They take up a
For
lot
what?
of
For a
space,
trap
though.
bar?
Just a trap bar, and then you got to
Yeah.
get the weights, obviously. But again, it doesn't have to be terribly expensive, especially if you're finding stuff on the used market. If you can
But
find something locally, then it's going to save you a bunch of money.
But again, you need a lot of weights, right? That your
yeah.
quads and glutes are large muscle groups.
Some
So-
people's are.
Yeah,
But
glutes are
seriously,
my
it's a
favorite.
great time to make a start on that because you are going to get some DOMs, some muscle fatigue, some muscle soreness, and right now, unless you're racing cross, it doesn't matter. You can like this week I got back on the leg press machine and I thought I was taking it super easy, but I could barely walk for 2 days afterwards. So
imagine.
it's
So-
better to get that to acclimate to your weight load
Sure.
now rather than once you got events to do.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference in a lot of different ways. It's just be careful and go into it with purpose and don't overdo it, and just find a good regimen that you can follow, that you can progress over the course of time.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
cool. Do you guys use any apps to help you out with your staying consistent or just doing what you need to do throughout the course of the off season?
I use Swift.
I bet a lot of you guys use Training Peaks.
Yes.
Training Peaks. And I use a program called SetGraph to keep track of my gym work. So I can always see what I did on my last session, and I can use progressive overload to add in a few more weights, or a little bit more weight, or a few more reps each time I go in there. So something that keeps track of all of that is a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's another one called Strong. If you want to use that to use, or you can build your own little workouts and track everything and see. And you can pay for the premium one and get like really detailed charts and graphs, and it'll show you progress over the course of time and things of that nature. But if you just want the free version, that's going to suffice perfectly well too. MyFitnessPal is a good one if you're wanting to get into the whole calorie tracking game and making sure that you're like staying on.
Are you still using that one? I felt like there was like a time where we were all on it, but
I use it quite a bit, but not during race season. I haven't during the race season.
I generally will use it when I want to get into that mode of like just weight loss in general.
Yeah.
It's a good way to look at your macronutrients. It's a good way to like hold yourself accountable. And sometimes like, man, if I go eat that cupcake, I don't want to put that in there and the calories and yada, yada, yada. So,
okay, this brings up something that I saw this weekend. Did you guys see this little YouTube video from Remco Evenepoel that they posted this week?
Nope.
He did a day in the life of his training where he tracked all the calories he ate for that day and the training he did. He did a 7-hour ride that day, and he ate almost 8,000 calories.
Oh, wow.
That day. And he was still in a calorie deficit.
Jeez.
But it was really quite interesting because he showed, this is what I'm eating for breakfast, and it was like a 1,700 calorie breakfast.
Wow.
Like just this huge, massive breakfast, and you're like, what?
What was it, if you don't mind me asking? I mean, do you know?
Yeah, it was oats, it was bread, it was fruit, it was honey globes. I don't even know what that is. I can't quite remember, but it was huge. I don't know how you eat all that food, but he was going out for a 7-hour ride, and he didn't make it 7 hours. He made it 4 hours. He got rained out, stopped, ate like 1,000 calorie lunch, and then went out for the last 3 hours later that day. But it was interesting to show what he ate for a big day, and he ate a whole bag of Haribo.
You're just like, that's my
and
boy.
a whole pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream at the end of the day.
Wow.
And he was still in a 1,000 calorie deficit for
Yeah.
the day. So that was
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, if you're using a bike computer, definitely want to make sure that you're fully understanding your like Wahoo Element app or your Garmin Connect app. And if you're using Training Peaks, that's an even better place to go. Coming up around Black Friday, they usually have like a discounted thing for Training Peaks for the year. A nice little deal. So that's a good time to wait to pick that up. And then you can start to like really kind of cue in on that. And then just, if you buy it around Black Friday, then you can re-up it next year at Black Friday and use that discount again. So it's a good time just to be in that rhythm so you get the best possible deal on it. But that's a really good way to, program in your different programs that you're running, your workouts and whatnot, and just to kind of see your statistical trends over the course of time. And for a lot of us cyclists, we like to nerd out on the data. And that's a really good way to like just kind of be able to like wrap your head around everything that you've been doing and to see progress over the course of time. That can be motivating for people.
I also have one of the Garmin Index, I think it is, the scale.
Yep.
And I track my weight on that, and it shows up in Training Peaks, and it's a really good motivational tool. And on the subject of calorie deficits, talking about that, I do. The last few years, I've been having a sort of a campaign on my sort of winter campaign of weight reduction, and I found this time of year right now, post race season, pre-Christmas, it's perfect time to get into that, because you don't have to worry so much about always timing your meals and having enough fuel for your rides. You can just concentrate on your basic calorie needs. better than I can if I'm doing a lot of volume on the bike.
And we've talked about this before, like don't completely deprive, well, it depends on who you are, but I personally try not to completely deprive myself through Thanksgiving and through Christmas. Like, but if I'm doing, like Ian said, if I'm tracking my calories, I do far better in terms of like, instead of saying just like, oh, screw it, I'll just take care of this at the new year. I'm just going to go buck wild versus like, all right, I'm staying regimen. I'm going to still stick to my guns here. And if I screw up like a day or two, I'm not going to like beat myself up about it, but I'm going to stay diligent through this whole time period, through the holidays of, just not getting out of control, because that getting out of control just means more time that you're going to have to spend in the saddle, maybe trying to burn off those calories to, circa, I don't know, Remco Evenepoel 7-hour rides and 8,000 calories and still being in a deficit. Like, I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to like kill myself just to get back on track. So
I will do, I will do that. I'll go out for a big ride on Christmas Day, knowing that
I'm going to eat
pre-Christmas indulgence ride.
Yeah. Maybe not on Christmas for me, but definitely Thanksgiving. That's always been kind of in my, my repertoire of things that I do in the holidays is go out and get a big ride in just so you've got some calories in the bank. Cool. There's another app that I kind of like that it's called Countdown. It's kind of fun. What you can do with that is you can just put significant dates in the calendar, and it's just a really basic app, and you can, it'll say whatever that thing is, and then it'll tell you how many days until that. So like, if I open that app right now, it's not going to have anything cycling related, but it's got everybody's birthday in my family, and I'm going to be going to visit my daughter at Penn State. It just tells me like how many days until all of those things. So if you're putting your races in that, or maybe big rides or something you're looking forward to, or team training camp or something like that, and it says you've got 37 days left, you're like, all right, I need to stay to this, as opposed to it being this like, that's in the future. This just kind of makes it be a little bit more real, and you can kind of stay on top of that. And that's again another free app that you can use.
Countdown.
It's called Countdown. Does what it says it does.
Yeah, exactly. Any other tips that you guys can throw out there for just finding success during the off season?
I think that's good.
That's it.
Sweet. All right. I don't.
I got one.
Go ahead.
Go to dialperformancecoaching.com.
There it is.
Check it out.
Gotcha. You can dive into the likes of like the YouTubes and whatnot too. Maybe come up with like a good series of things that you want to use to educate you, whether it be for cycling or anything else. But that's a good way to stay plugged in and stay like motivated. I know for me personally, when I'm riding on the trainer, there's like race videos that come up, and those I have to actually like dial myself back. I have to calm myself down so I'm not going too hard. Like, I'm sure you guys have all watched like NorCal Cycling. You'll go do their Alviso races or whatnot, and those kinds of things for me are kind of fun to watch, even though it's almost the same freaking thing every single time. I don't know, for whatever reason, I still like watching those because it gets me like kind of jacked up.
Races get your blood pressure up.
Yeah. So anyway, just find something that's going to motivate you. Cool. We're not totally done yet. So before one last thing, I figured we can maybe tell a couple stories, 1, 2, 4. I don't know. We'll see how many we get through here, about some of our favorite race experiences, some of our favorite race stories that we've had that kind of keep us motivated. And I thought maybe that could be something that people could listen to get them kind of jacked up and want to go out there and train a little bit harder this winter. Lance, do you have anything? Ian, do you have anything? Matt? Anyone to raise their hand?
I've got one that happened this year at Belgian Waffle Ride, Arizona. It was like one of the first rides, or one of the first races I did for the year, because it was in March. It was really early. And the race I did was 75 miles. It had like 4,000 feet of climbing, so not a whole bunch of climbing. But it started with a 7-mile paved climb. Mm-hmm. So right out of the gate, we hit this climb, and I actually trained really well over the winter, and I was like ready to go. And so we hit this climb, and there's 1,000 people in this race or something. Maybe it was like 700. It wasn't huge. That was doing the shorter Belgian Waffle Ride race. But we start going up this climb, and I made it 1.5 miles with the group and got dropped. And I thought, son of a bitch, are you kidding me? All that work that I've done all winter long, and I'm getting dropped already? And there were probably 40 guys that rode away from me that I could not stay with up this climb. And I had that moment of, do I bury myself just a little bit and stay with this group and And I had that devil on my shoulder that said, no, you can't stay with this group. You should just stick to your power wattage that you said you were going to. Because I told myself I could do the climb at 300 watts, which was going to be a lot. That's a press for me. But I was staying with the group at 350. That wasn't sustainable for me. So we crest the top of this climb, and then we hit this like 8-mile downhill section that was partially motocross track and partially single track. And when I hit the top of that climb and I'm like in 40th place, I thought, oh geez, I've already lost it. I'm out of it. And we're 30 minutes into this race. That downhill section, I think I passed 35 people.
It's not over until it's over. That's why they race the race,
Yes.
right?
So I end up in the top 10 by the time we get to the flat section at the bottom. And I thought, oh my gosh, I do have some downhill skills and some single track skills, so that did help quite a bit. But I flew past people that I thought were going to absolutely bury me. And I was able to kind of hang on. There was enough flat and enough climbing left that I still got passed by a few guys, and I think I ended up 18th overall. But I went from thinking, oh, I'm going to be barely top 100 in this race to being 18th and not giving up after that first when I got dropped.
Yeah.
That I was able to kind of pull that back. So
in a gravel race or a mountain bike race, that's very doable. That's really hard to do in a road race.
It's much harder in a road race.
So I could see that being very discouraging for somebody doing a road race, because there's nothing more deflating than getting dropped, from the peloton in a road race and having to
5 miles into a 70-mile race.
Because there's nothing technical for you to be able to catch up to people. Yeah. And as fast as you think you are on a downhill, that's just not going to happen. I mean, I could understand maybe if you're some lightweight climber that got dropped on a sprint section or like a really spicy flat section somehow, and there's a long 7-mile climb coming up, like maybe you put that time back into them, or maybe you can try and gap up, but that generally doesn't happen. But
it's the beauty of gravel.
Yep. So
beauty of
gravel and mountain bike. I mean, that's definitely one of those things. Like it's not over till it's over. Don't give up. There's always going to be something that's going to probably play to your suit that you can put some time back into people. And for you, we know it's going downhill fast. Right on. Ian, you've been riding on the road, racing on the road for many, many, many years. What was the race that really was that aha moment for you? Like, I like this. I'm good at it. I know that I can be super competitive. Which race did it really
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because our races are such minor affairs, really. I mean, in the big grand scheme of things, it's all about those moments of personal triumph that you care a lot about and nobody else really notices. But I would say when I first started getting back into road racing, masters races, back in 2017, 18, when we just started our team, Dialed Cycling, I think we have a picture of us all at basically the entire team at the piece of cake road race. I'm thinking of down there in Hubbard, I think it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was special about it is that we were all there, all sort of 10 of us. There's a picture of me, you, Lance, Mike Myers, Joey, Jojo,
Sean,
Robert Cummings was
Chris
there.
Weirman.
Yep, Weirman.
Yeah. And it was special because we all raced our races and we all supported each other. And I remember crossing the finish, and I didn't win this particular race, but I came second by by 2 inches.
Yeah.
But there was, I think Jake was there and Chris Hannell was there at the finish, and I could hear the encouragement from the teammates. It was really good.
Yeah.
And and also at that point, I had no expectations. I had no clue that how I would perform and if I would do well in that race. And I ended up in contending the sprint and almost winning the sprint. Yeah. And I just remember it so clearly, coming down this little dip with about 500 meters to go where we could suddenly use the entire road. And I was watching just a handful of people that I kind of had heard about, like Eric Anderson at that time was the sort of guy in the 50s, or maybe we were in we were in the 50 age group at the time. He was the hot sprinter then.
Sure.
And I just saw him jump, and I'm like, this is the time. And it all just panned out because I got on his wheel, and I could feel that being sucked along by that draft. It was really exhilarating.
Yeah.
And then I just came around him, and I thought, and the whole road opened up. There's nothing like that feeling where all of a sudden everybody seems to be behind you, and you can just see the finishing line getting closer and closer, and you're like, I got this. And then out the corner of my eyes, I just saw this wheel right next to me. And it was my friend Dean, who ended up beating me by, like I said, by a few inches. But what made it special was that we were all there. It was an actual racing team moment that, we just had that camaraderie, that good feeling. Anyway, it was cool. And there was a video of it, which, which I played back countless times, right? Just, yeah. So that was a good memory. And then I followed that up again a few weeks later with actually winning the sprint at another race, Cherry Pie race, which was
sweet,
great feeling. So, yeah.
Matt, what's your most memorable triathlon?
I got triathlon stories for days, but Lance mentioned Arizona, and I was like, oh, Arizona was definitely one of my Ironman good days, bad days. I don't know. It's kind of the opposite story of yours, where you're like, you hung in there and you made something happen, where mine was like, not so smart. But I remember getting in the water, and I think one thing that was really smart was I got in the water, I started the race, and I was just like very calm, and that's very rare for like a race start. And I was just like, I was trying to tell myself, and I think I was doing a good job of actually telling myself a lot of like positive messaging, and just like, today I get to go do all the things I like to do. I get to go swim and bike and run, right? And just being like constantly, like the first, whatever it was, 20 minutes of the swim, just a lot of gratitude talk, which I think really kind of works in a race, especially when you're doing like something super long like that. Getting out of the water, my time was fine. Getting on the bike was kind of you get into the mode of just trying to fuel up, and you do these long bike rides. I think my bike ride was like somewhere around 9 minutes slower than I wanted it to be, but within striking distance, right? So you got a solid race going, and it all comes down to the run, as it always does in triathlon. And if you over bike, you don't run well. I got on the run, and I run the first mile, and I look at my watch, and it's, I don't know, 6:23 or something like that. Way too fast, right? Like this is the legs are just happy to be off the bike. Let's go run. And and I'm like, okay, like don't try to like turn the brakes on, but just like relax and don't like overdo it, right? Because you got a marathon. And I missed the second mile, so I don't know what that was. Like it just like came and went or whatever. Hit the third mile, and it was like super fast. It was like 12:40 for that 2 mile split. So I'd gone like 6:20s on that. So flew through the first 3 miles, and I'm just mad at myself because I'm like, damn it, that is way too fast. It's great that you're feeling good. Like that's all fine and dandy. By 10 miles, my friends were checking on me, and they're like, how you doing? And I'm like, this is going to be ugly because I'm still doing okay at 10 miles. But like, you get through. The way the Arizona course goes is it's kind of in like Mesa, Arizona, and you're kind of on either side of the river, and there's a long climb, and you do it twice because it's like a 2-loop course. And so you suffer through the first loop, and that's at I want to say mile 12, 13. I'm just making up the mileage here, somewhere in that range. You come back and you hit it after like 22, 23, somewhere in there. I could not do anything. Like my body was like, I am walking. I cannot help myself. And I was pissed. I was so angry because I went from basically looking at this time like, oh, I'm gonna go 9:30 today. Like this is gonna be fast, to being like, oh shit, I might not break 10 hours. And that was like one of like the kind of bottom feeder goals, right? Where you're like, this is gonna happen. I'm fine if I just do a normal run. I'll be fine. And so it gets to the point where I'm walking, I can't do anything, and there's like 2 miles to go, and I start jogging a little bit, and just out of sheer anger and being pissed at myself, I'm like, I'm gonna go like until I bleed. Like I am just going to kill myself because I deserve it for going out too hard in the run. And I went like the last mile and a half or 2 miles was right around like 6:50 pace or something insane. Oh, wow. And ended up breaking 10 hours by a couple minutes or whatever it was. And I was fine. It was all great. But it just for like this block of time, it was like, you blew it. It just was such a bad race, but ended well because I was trying to punish myself. I mean, I think the takeaway is like, go into a race with a good attitude, having some gratitude during your race can actually make for a really enjoyable experience. It makes the whole process better, and you can race better if you're telling yourself positive thoughts. But the flip side is you can also punish yourself and do well. As there's some weird way to do that as well, especially at the end of races where you kind of need to give it everything you have. So no real moral of the story there, but there's an Arizona race story for you. That was 2017. It's been a
Was it
been a hot
2017?
minute.
I was going to say, because
so.
that was like a year or two after I moved here when you did that race. And I remember like you going out and doing all the training prep, and I was still trying to wrap my head around that. I mean, I'd never gotten into triathlon, and I started learning more about it just by being around you and learning more about you. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to try and go sub 10 hours. I'm like, what does that mean?
You're like, what does that mean?
It's a good story, because I can imagine like a triathlon is such a huge event, so many participants, that there's only an elite few that are going to achieve some sort of objective goal like getting on the podium. But then everybody else, it comes down to how satisfied you were with your execution.
There's a lot of people that are there
like
to finish.
It's like a project that you feel you did well at, or you didn't feel well at it.
Right.
And I can see that story is
it's definitely something that I'll remember for a long time, where you salvaged the day, right? And good, and I'm proud of that performance. It was good. Yeah.
How are we going to get you back there?
I don't know if I want to go. So there's no doubt that I love doing all those things. So putting it all together, what's to dislike about that? Nothing, but it's such a big time commitment.
Exactly. I think for you at this station of your life, between work
maybe when
and
kids are gone,
cross country and kids and family, like once your kids have grown and they've moved on and moved out and whatever,
it won't be that long. It's like
it goes by fast.
I got a kid in high school. It's like it's going to happen before you know it. But
you've probably got another good 10 years before when does Dash finish up with college? He's like 10, 12 years there. So anyway,
I'll be
maybe
long
at that juncture, but do you see yourself ever going back into the Ironman land? Are you content with maybe just more of the Olympic, or maybe a half?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Is the desire there, and you're just like, I don't have the time for it? Or is it just like,
there's just like, it would be a big ask, right? Like, I feel like right now my life is completely, like, every minute's accounted for. Like, everything is very, very busy. And to be like, oh, you basically, I would have to, like, something would have to give completely. Mm-hmm. Like, I would have to quit making YouTube videos, or quit, like something would need to be quit to do something like that, because it's just such a big time commitment. Yeah. And so right now I'm like, no, I'm happy I'm doing exactly what I want to do, but I do miss it. And I love the training. I love training hard for events like that. Yeah. So it's fun.
Good. What about something else? Would you ever, or do you think you'll get into like maybe road racing or gravel racing, or maybe mountain bike?
I could see myself getting into like gravel racing, or maybe something along the lines of like endurance cycling or something like fun like that, where you go, like, I've always been really intrigued by like, being able to like pack in, like bike somewhere, and like, I'm just going to go to Eastern Oregon and go, maybe I'll spend a couple nights there and bike back like that. I think that kind of adventure is very alluring to me. Sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't like this. It's all these little things like, well, then you have to get a different bike, and I have to get this bike or whatever. And so maybe someday, and it also depends on like, well, maybe some company would want to like pay for me to do something like that, right? Where it's like, use our bike and record the experience, something like that.
There
like
you go.
That would be super fun.
Blend those two worlds together. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Good.
We'll see.
Are you ever going to pin a number on for a road race again?
Maybe. I think it would just be, I would want to be a little competitive at least. I don't think I have to be super competitive, but like, you know how road races are. It's like, you kind of, if you don't stay with the pack, you're riding on your own. It's not that much fun.
Yep.
So I've done a road race in the past where I stuck with the group as long as I could, and then I got dropped, and then I'm like, now I'm time trialing, and I'm like, I know how to time trial. This is great. Passed a whole bunch of people.
You should
which
do
is,
a time trial. Come out and do
Yeah,
Mike Myers
I love time
in
trials.
March next year.
I
It's
think for-
20Ks. It's not a big.
yeah. I love time trialing. I would definitely do that. The one thing about time trialing is it really does pay to have the right equipment. And I don't have a TT bike right now. So
Eddie class.
Yeah, Eddie's fun. Super fun. Yeah.
What about you, Jake? What's your race story?
I've got like 3 of them that were kind of bouncing around in my head. Really, I'll just kind of touch on each one of them briefly. But I remember that aha moment where I've always been competitive in anything I've ever done. Like it's competitive base, I've been competitive. And I remember kind of having this nervous anxiety built up about like, all right, I know that I love riding bikes. I think I hear about these people going out and doing these races because you're kind of in the cycling community. And I finally just said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do it. And I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to like fare against people. You come out there and you kind of have this self-doubt and this negative talk to yourself, and you're looking around at people that look, skinnier or more fit, or like they've got better equipment, and you're like, yeah, screw it, just go do it. And I can remember doing my first mountain bike race. It was a short track race, and I probably looked like some Fred out there or whatever, but went out and did the race. And
You're probably wearing cargo shorts.
I actually did have a proper kit on, but I went out and I surprised myself. I did relatively well, and I was racing in what would be the equivalent of Cat 3 novice, if you will. And I think out of this particular race, I'd have to go back and double check, but I think there was like 75 people in this short track race. It's about a 2.5 mile loop, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 3, somewhere in there, down in Southern California. And I think I finished in the top 12. I'm like, that's not bad. And a lot of it's like, all right, I got hung up in these bottleneck sections, and I know I need to work a little bit on my climbs a little bit, but that moment, like, it kind of caught me. I'm like, all right, I can go out and play bikes with these people.
Yeah. I think that's key, right? When you have no real expectations, except maybe finishing the race, and then you exceed that, and you do way better than you thought you would.
So you finish the season, you look back and like, that was a blast.
Yeah. How
do I get faster? How to become more competitive? And that's when I started taking on this whole road riding thing, this whole road cycling thing. And so I'm like, all right, and how do you get faster? And you start like researching around, start talking to people. There were some people that I respected that said, well, if you really want to get fast on the mountain bike, you got to ride a road bike. I'm like, all right, I got a road bike. I can make that happen. And I just started going out riding and training. And next thing you know, I'm joining these group rides and getting my butt handed to me and getting dropped on those rides. And I've talked about this before in the past, but you just kind of figure out a way to keep training and keep coming back, and you just get stronger and stronger and stronger. And I remember after doing that for a full season of like training with these people and doing all this stuff and adding in volume, I went out and started doing the cross country series that they started up down there. It was a whole brand new series. I think it was called the non-dot series, which is kind of neat. Non-dot being like when you go ride the trail systems, they're all dot, like, you got green dot, blue dot, black dot trails.
Oh,
non-dots like take the route less traveled, like just it's like not even on the grid kind of a thing. So that's what their naming nomenclature was. Great people to put that together. But I went out and did their cross country series, and the first race of the season was it was a time trial, which was kind of an interesting way to start the series on a mountain bike. And I think it was short. It was maybe 5 miles total, maybe 6 miles. Man, it was about more like 5 miles. I remember this, again, looking around at people, because there's a whole new group of people that show up to this, and you like see all these people that, again, look like they're super like, fit and faster and all that other stuff. So you still got that little bit of self-doubt. And I remember going out there, I'm like, all right, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just do what you do and do it well and see how things shake out. So I, go and I sign up, and I'm at this juncture, I'm like, I'm not a novice anymore. So I went ahead and registered for the sport class, which would be the equivalent of Cat 2. Yeah. And then above that was your expert class, which would be the equivalent of Cat 1. We went out and did this, and no joke, it was about 20, 30 meters from the start line. When they, say go, you start going. We hit this climb, and it was just shy, I think it was like 0.9 miles. And you gained 1,000 feet. Oh, in 0.9 miles.
No.
The hill is called, and for people in Southern California that live in the Orange County area, we're going to know this is called Dreaded Hill. And it is one of those hills that like you were like over the handlebars, and you're pedaling, and you're trying to keep the front wheel on the ground while not letting the back brake loose. And so I just turned myself inside out going up this thing. And then my 30-second guy actually ended up catching me. going up this. I'm like, damn it. Well, it turns out that 30-second guy was a pro Cat 1 guy. So I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And then he passed me, and then like he crested before I did. I actually caught him on like this traverse and through this downhill section through these this kind of wooded areas, like oak trees. It's beautiful, such a fun little section to ride. And I should have passed him. I just couldn't get around him. But if I'd passed him, I would have beat him in the overall. I would have been able to put that time back into him. I just couldn't get around him. Well, I don't know if I take that back. I probably would not have beat him. I would have been a hell of a lot closer because he ended up crossing just in front of me. So he beat me by literally like 30 seconds and change or something like that. So that was my 30-second guy. But I ended up getting third overall in the day. So, and the reason why I got third is the guy that came in second was able to, and had I been able to get around this other guy, I would have put in enough time to get second overall because that would have been the difference there. But he was another pro guy. So I ended up taking third. I'm like, wait a second, this road bike stuff is working.
It's working.
And I'm actually pretty okay at this stuff. If I can hang with the guys that are riding at the Cat 1 level, I'm like, all right, I dig this. And so I just kept going out and doing my races for the rest of that season. And I came in second on one of them because I would have smoked this guy in the sprint finish. And it was a very bumpy section. And this was before a lot of people had the clutch derailleurs. My chain bounced off in this bumpy section. And it was just, it came off and I had to do like a pedal stroke or two, sit back down, and it jumped back on. And in that couple seconds, he passed me and ended up getting me by like a bike length. I'm like, oh, I would have had that. And I was pissed, and I came back to the next race and I ended up winning that one by, I think it was like, no joke, it was the longer race, but I think I won by 7 minutes. So I'm like, all right. And then I upgraded to Cat 1 down there. And anyway, long story short, that's when I knew that I loved this bike racing thing. And then I fell in love with the road bike stuff during that time period. And my quick road biking story is like, I didn't start racing on the road until I moved here to Washington. So my first proper road bike race was in 2016. It was, March-ish. Like we went out and did the Jack Frost time trial, which is the one that we took over from Michael Myers. And I ended up getting second out there. And I met one of the race promoters who ended up being on his team for that particular year. He looked at my time. He's like, I'm like, how did I do? And he's like, you're going to be really happy with how you did. And he's like, you did awesome. And you're the people that you beat and the one person that's going to beat you, like you should be proud of yourself. I'm like, all right. So went back and looked, and I ended up losing by, I think it was like 3 or 4 seconds.
Wow.
For the Eddie category to Merrick Latinsky. So
who's legit.
He's legit. And that was kind of cool. So I'm like, all right, that's kind of fun. I know that I can time trial okay, I guess. And then we went out and did the Dirty Circles, though. That was where I really fell in love with it. Wasn't the best race. It's not the most funnest thing ever. But for like your first proper road race, if you want to call it a proper road race, you're just doing laps on this flattish course. Like you really start to learn like the dynamics. And I'm like, all right, there's a lot of strategy that goes into these things. It's not just like, drop everybody and go as fast as you can and hopefully you can make that stick. I mean, yeah, if you can do that, great. But when you start to figure out like when brakes are going and people that you have to be watching for, and you just got to like have a keen sense of how it's going to unfold. And like that was a part of a series. And so like the first race, I ended up getting second place because I got boxed in and I couldn't get around. And John Hinkle came off the back and I couldn't get around and catch him and whatnot. So he gets first, I got second. I'm like, I totally could have won that, but I was boxed in the wrong spot. I'm like, I don't do that again. And came out the next week and we did it again, the race again. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. And my plan played out perfectly. I couldn't have like asked for a better thing, but I was able to get into pretty much a 2-man break. Dropped the entire field. It was myself and Greg Steele. And so Greg Steele and I are out there playing cat and mouse with each other. Oh, wow. And I'm like, all right, I know how I can beat him. I know what my capacity is. I just don't know exactly what he has under the hood. And I played it out and it worked out to my advantage. And I ended up winning that race by, I think, 20 or 30 seconds. So I was able to get off the front and made it work. So I'm like, that is so much fun. And it was completely different than the week before. And then I did a few races after that. Those all unfolded differently as well. So that's what I like about it. It's not, it's like, all right, who can go the absolute fastest, like a time trial? There is something about this road bike stuff that I really enjoy. And still to this day, I mean, I don't race as much as say Lance or Ian, but still to this day, I feel like every race kind of unfolds a little bit differently. And there's different strategies that you can employ. Yeah. And the more arrows that you have in your quiver based on the training that you're doing, the way that you prepare yourself and how well you know yourself so that you can kind of figure out how to best optimize how your result's going to work, That is so much fun. I mean, if you've only got one bullet to shoot and you're a sprinter and that's all you got, I mean, that's fine. But if there's a breakaway and you can't answer that, then maybe start working on some other parts of your game to kind of get yourself built for more fitness.
You can always tell a story about a road race you've been in because they all play out differently, like you said. So there's always a story about a break or a sprint or a whatever.
Sure.
You can tell those because every single one is different.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been in road bike races where I'm like, all right, I've got nothing today. I just got to sit in and see how the sprint plays out. And they've played out well for me. And I've had times where I've gone out and like, all right, well, we're going to go do this whole break off the thing. And I end up soloing by myself. And I think I'm still hurting from that from back in 2017. But yeah, it's just kind of fun how much fun a road race can be. Like if you go out there and just kind of give it your all in terms of like the preparation part of it, and then go out and do the race and understand that there's so many different dynamics that you can play to your advantage. Like you might not be the strongest guy out there. You might not be the best sprinter out there. You might not be the lightest person with the best FTP and watts per kilogram out there. But if you're crafty, you can win yourself a bike race. Yeah. So that kind of stuff is what I try and channel during the off season and have to like harken back and remember. And that's why I'm watching some of these races and seeing how things are unfolding. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. Or like, oh, I've done that before. Like when you've got those things to draw upon or those things to watch and inspire you, that's a good way to get yourself prepped and ready to go to get through an off season so that you can have some success in the season to come. The thing is, just got to stay healthy. So
Got to stay healthy.
Yeah, I need to bubble wrap myself this winter and hopefully not have any issues. So, all right.
I was in that Dirty Circles race with you, Jake. Your very first road race was also my very first road race.
Yeah.
Really? I did not make the break that Jake made.
I can just remember looking around.
I'm surprised that was your first road race.
It was my first road race.
Yeah. And just going back and looking at those race photos is kind of fun too, because you see a bunch of people like that day. I knew nobody. Like I'm looking around and like I didn't know who Greg Steele was. I didn't know who Andy Levine was. I didn't know who a lot of these other people. I didn't know
Chris
Lance
Serrett, me, Travis Power, Charlie Goldstein.
Yeah, like all these
Michael
people.
Myers, Dan Litwara. They were all there at that race.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things. Like you think back to that moment, like I didn't know anybody, and you're looking around and you're looking at all these people again, tall and slender and fast looking and nice equipment. And I'm like, I don't stand a chance in this. And the next thing you know, like, hey, I did all right, fun stuff. So, yep.
Anyway.
Pretty cool.
Cool.
That's my story.
Love it.
Cool. All right, let's jump into one last thing and wrap this bad boy up. Matt, what you got?
Well, I got some Apple stuff that's in the office that I need to put a video together for. It's been pretty cool. It's all the new Apple gear. Finally got. I got a whole bunch of stuff. I got the Apple Watch Ultra. I got the Apple Watch Series 10, the big one and the small one. So I've got a lot of watches that I need to review. But before that, I think I'm going to have this. It's called the Suunto Race S watch.
Sweet.
I think
It's a nice looking watch.
Yeah, I'll have that video come out here. It's late. Maybe it'll come out on Monday if I can work on it this weekend, which has been, cross country's been busy, so it's a little bit tricky to get time to work on some of this stuff. So that I posted a video about Coros, 10 things you might not know about your Coros watch. Coros makes good stuff, and that's been a fun video. So we'll see how you guys like that. If you guys are interested in learning a little bit more about your Coros watch, you can check it out. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/mlegrand, MLEGRAND.
Let's go channel. Go
subscribe.
Yep.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe.
Sir Ian Gibson, what's your one last thing, buddy?
I'm just looking at the Obra schedule, and in amongst all the remaining cyclocross races, and there are many, there is Ashes to Glory Gravel, which is held out in Madras, Oregon. It's on the Saturday, the 12th of October. Not this year, but last year they used the same course for the Oregon Gravel Championships race. And it's an awesome course. It was so well organized and just a great place to ride a gravel bike. They had a 60-mile and a 30-mile option. I think that's going to be the same this year. I have mixed thoughts about it. I'm just not in the mindset to do an event like that anymore, but I hope some of the people listening to this will go out there, because I feel like...
Not ever doing it again, just at this juncture right now. Just a little bit burned out at the moment.
Yeah, I wonder about the wisdom of putting on a longer gravel race at this time of the year when we're in the middle of cyclocross season is. But, you know, as a race promoter myself, I wish these guys all the best. So I'm really hoping that some people listening to this podcast might choose to go out there. Madras is, I don't know, like 2-hour drive from Portland metro area. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, great course, great people. So
It's one of those little towns you pass through on the way down to Bend, correct?
yeah.
Gotcha.
There's 21 more cyclocross races on the schedule this year.
Oh, wow.
Well, Saturday
do all of
is
them.
Ashes to Glory, and then there's Heron Lakes on the Sunday.
Yeah.
Cross Crusade. Yeah, that's what I got.
Cool.
This weekend's races, tomorrow, Saturday, is the first cyclocross crusade race of the season. It is a 7-race series, I believe, this year. They're starting a little earlier than normal because there's lots of conflicts. So first cyclocross crusade race, that is the 30-year-old series that has a whole lot of history. Used to be one of the biggest series in the nation for cyclocross. I don't think that's the case anymore, but that's happening on Saturday.
What's the first race?
It's called Fernwood.
Fernwood. Okay.
It's in Malala, Oregon, at a rock quarry.
Oh no!
So there will be
you hate
some,
rocks.
There will be some. I'm so excited. So there will be some climbing and
rock
some
talk.
nasty stuff and maybe some rock talk. Sunday is Heiser Farms Cyclocross, the second to last race in the Harvest Cross series. This is a great race at a pumpkin farm that is very well attended, very well organized. Some crazy stuff happens there, so that is a very cool race. So that's happening on Sunday. So 2 big races happening. There's also a mountain bike race tomorrow in Bend. Mike Ripley's last mountain bike race of the year, the Ring of Fire.
Which was rescheduled because of smoky conditions, maybe, was it?
No,
Or no?
it wasn't. It
Was it a
wasn't
permit thing or something? It was something that came up, right?
I think it was a permit thing.
Gotcha.
It got pushed.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's happening tomorrow as well.
Cool.
That's it.
Cool. My one last thing is I have to go to the bathroom. My coffee lease is up. We will be back next week with another one of these. And until then, bye for now.
My one last thing is that my coffee is up.